This is Meet the Movie Press. It's August the 17th. Oh my god, so much to cover this week. Blumhouse, could there be screaming? Star Trek casting crisis. We got a Wahlberg exclusive. The Lady and the Tramp voice cast controversy, ? Plus the box office and the verdict on the week's big movies. This is Meet the Movie Press.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talks Meet the Movie Press.
It is another week here on Meet the Movie Press. Now, I sat down to make the list of the show yesterday, exactly what we should talk about. I thought that's a quiet week. I was horribly wrong. A lot of stuff has happened in the last 12 hours. So, okay, we got a lot of stuff to get through. First of all, who the hell am I? I'm Simon Thompson. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ShowbizSimon. You can see my work. I've been so busy this week, it feels like pretty much everywhere, which is a good thing because that means I can eat and I keep a roof over my head. But I'm also joined, as usual, by two very able men. Starting off with the gentleman on the end. Yeah, no, they're turning up later. I've got you guys until then. Yeah. Okay, you are Demetri. Who are you and where can we find you?
Hey, yes, my name's Demetri Panos. Hey, movie fans. Hello, panel. How's everybody doing? You can find me here too. Also, Popcorn Network show Anatomy of a Movie. And today we will be talking about Meg and Black Klansman. And yeah, you'll find me on Twitter at DMovies1701. Had big Twitter hits today.
Good.
And then, so long as you folks keep providing me with stuff to retweet, I have stuff to retweet.
There you go.
Oh, and Simon, I gotta say, you're so precious. Just love the way you say controversy.
Controversy. Aluminium.
Controversy.
Millenniums. Who's the handsome gentleman beside you?
Hi there, I am Scott Menzel. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at The Other Scott M. I do this wonderful show first on the Popcorn Talk Network. There's another show coming up at 11 o'clock today, LAOFCS Weekly.
LMNOQ.
And yes, LMNOQ, the longest naming show in history.
Well, we haven't got any more time for the show this week, but at least we know the alphabet, which is amazing.
And because Carla Renata will kill me if I don't mention this, Black Tomatoes, every Sunday, 5 p.m., Black Hollywood Live.
Woo-hoo.
That's a lot of stuff.
Way too much.
A lot of stuff.
Can you have too much stuff?
A lot of consonants.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
I noticed a lot of consonants. It's almost like a Greek last name.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a hell of a Scrabble score, though. Seriously, hell of a
I should run it
Scrabble
all
score.
together. LAOFCSBLACK. You know, like just keep going.
WTF, lol, ruffle, and here we are. Okay, let's start off with talking about the movies.
Sure,
okay,
go for it.
A couple of big releases this week. Some that actually pleasantly surprised me, and some that sadly disappointed me. Okay, let's kick off with what we had on the box office previews Thursday night, and obviously for one movie, Wednesday as well. That film is Crazy Rich Asians, which a lot of people are very excited about. It's been a lot of editorial, understandably, around this movie. So it had a 2-day opening. It started on Wednesday. It took 3.8 on Thursday, 3.8 million. It took 5 on Wednesday, so it's currently already out of the gate with 8.8 million this weekend. It's looking at pulling in around the 30 million, which is pretty good. I can see it hitting 35. Word on the street's very strong. Mile 22 is the latest from Mark Wahlberg. It's an action movie. Go figure. $1 million in previews, looking at about a weekend of 17 million. I think that could go either 15 or maybe up to 20. It's going to be somewhere around there. And Alpha, which I got to see this week, that had previews of 525,000 on Thursday. Not as bad as it sounds because the kids have just gone back to school in a lot of areas, so that is no big surprise there.
Not exactly a dog.
No, it is not. Puns so soon in the show. Looking at a weekend
It's
of
only
7.
been on for 4 minutes.
Well, it's looking at a weekend of 7 to 8 million, but I think that could actually potentially hit 10. Because actually there's a lot to sell that movie on. We could talk about these individually very quickly because we have so much else to talk in the show. Let's kick off first of all with Crazy Rich Asians, which I have sadly not seen. I will be catching it this weekend. Which of you guys have seen this?
I saw it. Did you see
Okay.
it?
I have not. No, my movie pass. No, it
damn place.
wasn't
Yeah,
a movie available to me.
You use the M word.
I know. I'm trying. I know that movie.
Yeah, now it's the roulette wheel of movies.
Now we've mentioned
But
Movie
yes.
Pass. Actually, you can't see the rest of this show for 2 weeks. It is now blocked. So unfortunately,
You get to pick from 6.
the rest of the show is going to be like this.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But you can see Gotti, which is great.
Yeah.
Okay, so Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah.
That's the thing you don't hear very often. You can see Gotti?
Yeah.
That came out?
Yeah.
So Crazy
And
Rich Asians,
Slender
Scott, tell me about it.
Oh, and Slender Man. Yeah, don't forget about Slender Man.
Don't forget about Slender Man, even though Sony apparently did.
Yeah.
Okay, so
you
Crazy
like-
Rich Asians.
Really great movie.
Yeah.
This is everything that I think the hype has been building up to.
Yeah.
Really highly recommend it. Every single actor owns their role in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's a love story. It's a rom-com. It's a great throwback. Yes, it celebrates Asian culture, but you don't have to be an Asian to appreciate this movie.
What?
It's for everyone.
Like
it's
My
for
Big Fat
everyone.
Greek Wedding.
Absolutely.
It's
for
almost
everyone.
like if you're not what you see on screen, you can also understand what they're
yeah,
doing.
go freaking
What?
figure, right?
Does that mean that
Who
people
would
are
ra-
different, have a lot of things in common?
Yeah, I know.
What?
What the hell? I don't get it.
Oh my God.
Who would do
You
such a
didn't tell
thing?
Hollywood this for
I
decades.
know.
Why are we only just finding this out?
I don't know.
So it's actually good. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Initially, I wasn't that interested in the movie, and I've been working on this for a number of my outlets, including Reuters this week, doing a lot of editorial with them on this. And I was at an event, a KCON in LA last Friday, and there are a lot of people there. I mean, actually, the amount of Asian Americans who go are like 45% who go there. The rest are non-Asian Americans or non-Asian full stop, which a lot of people were quite surprised by. That's 55%. And a lot of people there were all talking about Crazy Rich Asians. It really has a massive appeal. I've seen a lot of good things, some sort of middling things, but nothing really bad about the movie.
I mean, listen, this is really funny to me. The only people the few people who I've seen who don't like this movie are the few white guys, like older white guys, like saying like, I don't like this. This is not
Too many
that
Asians.
good. Yeah.
You wait for one in Hollywood and then the whole movie comes
out.
up.
Yeah.
We're always going to get those guys there. I don't care who's on screen.
You know who else didn't like
I don't
it?
care.
Scott Mendelson of Forbes.
I did see that.
Yes,
I did see that.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about it
With
is,
love, Scott Mendelson. With love, it's okay.
You can't. I mean, you can't please everybody. Not everybody's going to like a movie, and there's no law that says you have to like a film.
No.
and personally, I think it's going to over-index.
Oh, I do too.
And I believe that we're in the right place at the right time for a good romantic comedy.
Yeah.
They have been proven lately, like good comedies.
Yeah.
It's hard to do.
Yeah.
And make them good. And the reviews on this movie have been
Pretty solid.
pretty positive.
Yeah.
What's amazing about this, though, is the performances. Okay,
Yeah.
so in any romantic comedy, any rom-com, it really comes more down to how well the actors sell it. Do they have chemistry? Can you relate to them? And I think Constance Wu in particular really sells this movie. She's the reason to see this movie. Yes, Awkwafina is amazing and hilarious, but she is the heart and soul of this movie.
But I mean, what I think is really interesting about selling a movie, and this is something I've brought up previously, and a lot of people are going, "Oh, you're talking crazy," is because Constance Wu, not a household name.
No, not at all.
Leading man, first actual acting job.
Yeah.
Awkwafina and Ken Jeong. And also there's Santos as well from Superstore. Nico Santos.
Yeah.
They're not still people that can carry movies on their own. And yet, do you know what, Hollywood? Sometimes you can put someone new, irrespective of their color. I'm going to take the whole Asian thing out of this.
Yeah, sure.
Someone new who's just really good. Put them in a movie, and do you know what? People are still going to buy tickets.
Yeah. And again, I just go back to my...
If you make a good movie,
Right,
Field of
people will
Dreams,
go.
they will come.
Well,
Right.
I go back to My Big Fat Greek Wedding, which really, talk about whitewashing Greeks. I mean, there was only a couple of people that were Greek in that movie, but nobody cared because... Like, that was that indie darling that made $100 million. It cost like $5 to make, right? Near Verdalos at that point was
Nobody.
not a household name. And that movie just caught on like wildfire, and it went above and beyond just the Greek community. Once people saw it, I had so many people go. It was like the funniest thing. With a name like Demetri Panos, are you Greek? No, I'm Irish trying to pass. So I would go like, they go, oh, did you see My Big Fat
Wait, hang on.
Greek Wedding?
You are Irish, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Just checking.
Yes. I am. Yeah. McPanos. Anyways, so I can see that this. I can see this movie.
Yes.
Having that, but then I feel sorry for the Asian culture population because people are gonna go up. Oh, did you see Did you see Crazy
Oh my
Rich
God,
Asians?
yeah.
What do you
That's
think
gonna
about
happen.
blah, blah, blah?
yeah.
It's like we had it earlier in the year. It's
Oh,
like you see someone who's African-American. Have you seen Black
I-
Panther?
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like the Obama. Oh, if I could have, I would have
Is it
voted
really
for
Wakanda
Obama.
forever?
Yeah,
Is it really?
because
So
I tell you what,
that's the thing.
Chadwick Boseman's face every single time he has to do that now. I'm like, this is, dude, I
Maybe
feel
they should just
for
leave
you.
you dead.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
No, but so I think, but it's good for the movies.
Yeah.
It's good for business.
Yeah.
Right. And because there was a time where it didn't matter. Like a lot is being made of that. This is an all Asian cast, which is fantastic.
Yeah, but I mean, but
right?
these are facts.
Yeah,
these are facts.
facts, right? But there was a time when movies like League of Their Own were made, and it's all female director, and yeah, it's sort of a big deal. But they were really good movies that stood on their own, did really well at the box office, and they had public support because it was a good, feel-good movie.
So you've seen it?
Yes.
Now, this is the kind of movie, comedies are either one or the other, it tends to be. Is this a comedy that you should see in a movie theatre? Or is it the kind of comedy where if you don't pay $16 and you catch it on streaming or home in 6 months' time, it's going to be a slightly different experience?
No. You need to see it in a movie theater. Not only for that experience of the reaction from everyone else around you, but there are, I mean, Jonna M. Chu does such a beautiful job filming this. There's a terrific soundtrack, a lot of famous pop culture songs that are reimagined by Asian artists like Material Girl and some other stuff that just really pop in the movie theater. But also there's these beautiful scenes on yachts, and there's a wedding sequence in this movie. Gorgeous. I mean, just gorgeous.
Like in the Meg?
Where like the water builds up, but it's like it's really gorgeous. And I mean, the ships. I feel like half the budget went to these sets more than the actors. I
think
feel like more of that went to them.
I'm looking forward to seeing it. I really am.
Me too. I mean, I'm definitely going to go buy a ticket. Let's move on. We've got a couple of other movies to talk about before we get on to the news of the week. Mile 22, Mark Wahlberg. That movie taking a lot of shit, I'll be honest with you. A lot of the reviews have been, it is not a great movie. I'll admit that. I certainly didn't dislike it, and I certainly did not enjoy it. It's basically a get from A to B kind of movie, which has been done many times before. I think there are certain elements. I think the script is not good. I think some of the cast are completely wasted. You could have had anybody in those roles. I don't necessarily think this is a big Hollywood movie. I did an interview with Mark Wahlberg, which I'll get to later on in the show. But I mean, this is not the worst Mark Wahlberg movie I've seen in the last 5 years. Would I recommend spending $16 on it? I mean, I don't know. It's the kind of movie that I think you can then wait for to come on streaming or home entertainment. But I don't think it's quite as bad as some people have been making out. I saw someone say, I think it was on IndieWire, that it's the worst movie of the summer. I've seen movies that I disliked more.
I think the movie's terrible.
Yeah, I know a lot of people do.
I really do.
Yeah.
I think the editing is atrocious. I think the Mark Wahlberg trying to have autism and his on the spectrum kind of way of his handling of that is just laughably bad and an insult to anyone who actually does. The only redeeming quality for this movie, for me, was Lauren Conrad and the guy from The Raid, who I'm sorry, I'm forgetting his name, because I thought those two kicked a lot of ass, and I wish the movie was based around them and screw everybody else.
Was that Ico?
Ico, yes, yeah.
Yeah, no, Ico's great. I mean, everything that Ico is in. I'm just amazed that he's done quite a few movies in Hollywood, obviously past the Raid and The Raid 2, which were not Hollywood movies. And they haven't really got the coverage that they should. And I think he's great. And
Cult status for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah,
but I think he
absolutely.
deserves better than that.
Yeah, he does.
I really do.
He
He's
does.
just a good job in this.
And why would they put Ronda Rousey in
Don't
this
know.
movie and
No
they didn't
spoilers,
use her?
but-
And they didn't use her at all.
Yeah, I know. It's a
such
shame.
a waste.
Yeah.
It
I mean,
reminded me of the movie that Arnold Schwarzenegger did, Sabotage, about 4 or 5 years ago, where you have a cast of people who could be really good together and then aren't utilized effectively.
Yeah. Oh, and the editing on this movie is
It's
so
terrible.
bad. It's just
You know what? It's Peter.
I know, but
haven't
this is like the worst I've ever seen him in terms of editing.
Really, because
Yeah.
I mean, the way Peter Berg is about as subtle as a brick to the head.
Oh, yeah,
like there's
I know.
just no subtlety to his direction in the way he films action and or violence. So I don't know. I mean, I will see it because I know we'll talk about it on Anatomy of a Movie.
Yeah.
I like Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
But you guys aren't selling it for me.
I mean, it's not a great movie. I really didn't hate it. I didn't feel like there are certain movies this year where I've spent 2 hours plus in a movie theater and I've gone, well, I'm never going to get that time back.
Oh yeah,
I didn't feel that with this, but I was just kind of like
I just didn't
wanted
care.
more.
I will agree with you.
Yeah.
That was what my problem was with it. I just didn't care.
Yeah.
Like it's not something where I would go out and say like, oh, this is the worst movie ever made.
Yeah.
It's just something where I was just like, it didn't work for me. Nothing sold me. I didn't care about anyone. It was just a waste of my time.
For me, it was very much like it was like a second Den of Thieves for me this year. I know some people like that, but I really didn't like that movie. But I think also the fact that with this, I mean, it's the third movie that Mark's done with Peter Berg.
Thought it was the
I know they love
fourth. It is the fourth.
Yeah, it is the
Yeah,
fourth.
fourth
And I know that they clearly like working together. It's a relationship that doesn't work for me. I really hope they have a great movie in there. But also, I think the biggest thing for me about the movie was the fact that by watching the trailer, I just felt like I'd already seen the movie, and this was filling. This was filling in the gaps.
Yeah.
It's a 90-minute movie at best. A lot of things that could have been tightened up. Let's move on to Alpha, a movie that I actually reviewed for IGN. You can see my review on there. Another of my outlets. This was a movie that I was absolutely not excited about at all. I mean, if I had a bag of fucks. It was empty.
Yeah.
That's how many I could have given about this movie.
Yes.
I'll be bluntly honest with you. And then they offered to say, do you want to watch it? I'm like, do you know what? Yeah, I'm curious to see it because I am more than happy when I see a movie to be proved wrong about my preconception of something. More than happy for that to change.
Yes.
This is a movie that visually seriously stunned me. It is one of the most beautiful things sort of in scope and scale that I have seen on the big screen. And talking of big screen, see it on the biggest possible screen. I don't often say this, see it in 3D, and really do see this in a movie theater because it's got Dolby Cinema sound.
Right.
And that, seriously, this is all about getting the most visceral experience that you possibly can. If you try and watch this on your phone, or even if you've got a good home cinema setup at home, it is not going to give you the same experience at all. This is a movie that you have to see on the big screen, and you should absolutely see it. It is a very simple story. I said it was basically Bear Grylls' The Incredible Journey Ice Age edition, which it fundamentally is. It's a simple story, but it really didn't tug on the heartstrings as much as I thought it might, but I certainly came away way more satisfied than I was expecting.
I am glad you and I are back on the same page with this one. I had
Needed more Wahlberg, though.
I had
Just
I had zero interest in this movie.
Yeah.
And Sony reached out to me and they were like, "Hey, do you want to come? You want to come to an early screening of this?"
Yeah.
And I kind of said, eh. And I went, and I walked into that theater and I did not have any expectations whatsoever. I mean, they were probably bottom of the barrel expectations that I had. And I agree. See it in 3D. See it on the biggest screen possible.
Yeah.
It is a gorgeous film.
Beautiful.
And it's like, I think the best 3D experience since Avatar.
Yeah.
I think it's going back. Yeah, that
I
good.
agree. Actually,
Alright.
to me, it's actually better than Avatar. Avatar is
Because the story's better here.
I mean,
the
it's
story's better.
they're very different
Guns are fighting
movies
words.
Yeah.
in terms of sort of richness and lushness. But as far as the use of the technology and the cinematography, this to me, actually, I came away more impressed than I did with Avatar.
Well, you know what else was fantastic about this movie? The whole entire movie is subtitled.
Yeah.
And it's like they created a whole language for this movie that was never spoken. Like it's never spoken. The actors had to learn this whole new language.
English. No, I'm kidding.
But it was just, I thought that was shocking to see. I mean,
Yeah.
this was a really ambitious film for Sony to greenlight.
And there's not a huge amount of dialogue in it for the runtime.
No. And I mean, like you said,
Which is tough.
it's kind of interesting seeing there's only two of them, and this is probably the best Cody Smith-McPhee has been too.
Yeah.
And I mean, some of them, I know it doesn't pull on the heartstrings as much until the very end of the movie, but like it's a very emotional journey, and it's not exactly really happy. It's kind of violent at times, and I just was really shocked. This ended up being one of the biggest surprises of the summer.
But on that, I mean, it's a PG-13, so obviously it's not like Incredible Journey, which I think was like a U whatever or a G.
I think it was G. Back
in the day. But to be honest with you, with the action set pieces and where the moments where it was more violent, I think they could have gone, and this is a criticism that I actually feature in my review in IGN, and please do go and check it out. It could have gone a bit harder. It could have pushed that PG-13 a little bit harder. For me, some of the action set pieces, they didn't quite push me to the edge of the seat in the way that they promised or that they kind of teased and set up.
Yeah.
I think Albert could have gone, and it's Albert Hughes. I mean, movies like Dead Presidents and stuff like that. I mean, his understanding of action set pieces,
his first film by himself
and stuff,
too.
Yeah, is really good. So I would have liked him to have gone a little bit harder with that stuff, made it a bit more visceral. I think again that would have been something that would have really played very well with the formats that this is in. And at times the pace was slightly off. I mean, it was you get an action sequence and then it would suddenly be it wouldn't deliver the length that you kind of wanted.
It reminded me of an independent film.
It did.
Yeah, that's what it was like, a big budget independent film where they focused on the visuals, but the story was very rich. It was very much about the the culture of the Iceland people. I think that's where or is it just Ice Age?
It was Ice Age. Yeah,
but
it is in Scando Europe.
Yeah, but it was just amazing, like just the rich detail that they had, like the tribes, like leaving people behind, like how they just didn't care, like. He gets abandoned, and it shows in the comparison between him and the wolf, kind of both having that same faith where they're left to die, and then them coming together. You think it would be cheesy, but it's not. No. It really works.
For me, I think the biggest mistake with this movie, and we're going to move on to the week's movie news in just a second, is the fact that if I was Sony, I would have had a bit more faith in this movie. I think because
they didn't know how to market it.
They didn't know how to market it.
I was just going to say,
if they'd have pushed it out earlier in the summer, it's at the ass end of August, and I don't think when the kids have gone back to school, I really think with word of mouth, if they'd have brought this out like sort of 4 weeks after The Incredibles 2, and a lot of the summer movies this year for families, there wasn't a huge amount.
Yeah.
And I think there was a lack in quality. I think they would have brought in way more money on this.
The only thing that I can contribute to the conversation, because I haven't seen the movie, is the marketing. And I think that they obviously had a very difficult time trying to market this movie, because how do you do what you folks were just saying about this movie in a 2.5 minute trailer?
You can't.
You really can't. It's simplicity of the story. Well, it's very simple.
Yeah.
There are really no actors for this movie to hang its hat on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's visceral enough, but it's ultimately a dog's tail. This is what you get from the marketing. I'm not calling it that. I haven't seen the movie. So it's just very difficult. And I think that August, had they regardless of when they release this movie, Sony had Hotel Transylvania. They're not going to...
They should have gone, in my opinion, they should have gone with this. This should have been their big summer push. I think they would have really come out. There is nothing in movie theaters like this.
Nope.
That I believe.
That it's really refreshing to have. It's refreshing to have a classic boy and dog story front and center at the movie theaters, and I think it was a mistake by Sony not to have pushed it and pushed Hotel Transylvania 3 to the end of the summer, because quality and delivering, and I think this to me is a family movie that is a small F family movie, because it's not just aimed at kids. There are a lot of adults that I think will overlook this, that I think would really enjoy this movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, we're going to move on. So I just want one thing. When we started off the show, we talked about Crazy Rich Asians, and we discussed the fact that sometimes Hollywood does have this preconception, whereas you'll only be interested in this movie if you're black or if you're Asian or whatever. Someone brought up a very good point. It was actually LS Gay in the chat saying Coming to America was also all black.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hollywood sometimes forgets that people who aren't represented on the screen will also want to see something that is represented on the screen. White people, we're not short of movies with white people in. So it's really important to have the representation up there. But if you put a movie up there that's heavily ethnic, people who are not ethnic, white, I mean, it is an ethnicity, but they're going to go and see it.
And I will tell you that at the press day for this, the writer, the producers of this movie, came up to me after the press day and said, "Did you really like it? Did you really like it?" They were worried. They were worried that I was just like shooting the shit.
But
Like,
you know,
I was
I-
just BSing them.
No, but I'm glad that person brought up Coming to America.
Oh, yeah, no, Coming to America is amazing.
But the reason I'm glad that it was brought up and it's ideal for our conversation here is because when Coming to America came out, it was billed as a comedy. Nobody gave a shit what color anybody was, really. I mean, it's Eddie Murphy, right? It was John Landis, talk show host, Arsenio Hall, right?
Yeah.
Nobody cared. Nobody said, "Oh, I'm going to that black movie." Everybody said, "I'm going to Coming to America."
That's the weird thing in the 80s.
Who's your favorite black comedian?
Yeah.
That's how things. That's how things have
In the 80s,
changed.
but that's right. In the 80s, remember, like, we had these, like, the Beverly Hills Cops in the 90s.
Yeah.
Like, it was there, and we didn't make a
there.
big deal
Get the
about it.
fuck outta here.
Now, all of a sudden, we make a big deal
thrown out
again.
of
I don't understand what's going on.
It's crazy.
I don't
because
get it.
This has always been in our culture.
Yeah.
And having strong women and strong,
I know,
like
I know.
Sharon Stone.
They're called mothers.
Yeah.
You might have heard of them. They squeeze us out of their vajayjays. They're okay. Maybe we should represent that more.
It's just
I'm
very
just saying.
fascinating as
I
to
know,
when you
I
look at
know.
the
Yeah.
80s.
It's like
and
we
then
go
you look at
backwards.
today.
They take care of us when our daddies go away. It's like, women have got this, guys. It's fine. They've been doing it for a long time. Since we lived in caves. Crazy. I was actually raised in a cage.
Yeah.
You can tell. Okay, so much
Free
to get through.
range?
Let's move on to the week's movie
I
news.
was free range.
Yeah, that's cool. But you mean you were like, what, lived in a forest and ate?
I did.
Like,
Yeah.
okay,
Can't
cool.
you tell?
That explains a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about things. Let's talk about Blumhouse.
Blumhouse
This was
Corner.
Blumhouse Corner.
Blumhouse Corner.
Okay, seriously, we're gonna build a shrine to Jason Blum in the studio because that dude, just love him. Okay, so he was doing an AMA basically last night. He had an hour free. He was taking questions on Twitter from people. There were a number of things which came up that I want to pick up on the show today. One of them, first of all, let's talk about Fantasy Island. We mentioned on the show the other week that Blumhouse are going to be doing a new version of Fantasy Island. When Jason responded to that and someone said, is it going to be horror? He said it was going to be horror adjacent.
Right. Yeah.
Very excited about that.
Yeah, me too. Well,
Very
we were
excited.
talking about, like, which direction can they go? Is it going to be really dark?
Yeah.
So this makes it sound like, yeah, it's going to be a little dark.
Yeah.
But he's going to try to appeal to the masses. I really like the word horror adjacent.
Yeah.
I wish one of us schmucks here could have been smart enough to think about horror adjacent when we were talking about. Go, how come we didn't think of that word?
I know.
But
Makes him sound like a horror realtor. Well, it's not in horror, but
Yeah,
it's like horror adjacent.
horror adjacent.
Yeah.
So yeah, really,
Which I think Get Out is kind of horror adjacent, right? Get Out?
I mean, I know there were think pieces on this. It's not horror. It's a thriller. It's a comedy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would say Get Out is horror adjacent.
Yeah, sure.
Very much so. Also, people asked him about a number of franchises because obviously this year, 40th anniversary of Halloween, Blumhouse have the new Halloween. I cannot wait for that movie. I'm so excited. More Halloween news later in the show. But people were asking him about franchises that he would like to or potentially revive. One of them was I Know What You Did Last Summer, which had 3 movies. A lot of people don't realize this. There was
Had 3?
yeah. Oh, wait for the story.
Okay.
Wait for the story, bro.
I'm going.
I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yep. I
Great.
still know what you did with this.
I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. And then there was a third one, went straight to DVD.
Yeah.
Which was truly awful.
Yeah,
What was
there's
it
a
called?
reason why.
It was called, someone in the chat.
I'm thinking I know what you did last summer.
Dude, I still know what you did last summer.
Where's the dude? Where's
yeah, but
my
there was
car
a
sequel?
third
I'm
one.
still waiting for that.
Let me just check, actually. Still know what you did last
While you're looking that
summer
up, though,
3.
One
Yeah.
of
You
the
want to talk about
movies-
Dude, Where's My Car?
Well, yeah, sure.
Here's the title. I'll always know what you did last summer. Which sounds like a cross
sounds-
between a horror and The Notebook.
It sounds like a song. It sounds like
Oh my god, I'd watch that!
It sounds like
Yeah.
a song that was left on the cutting room floor from Grease.
Yeah, don't worry, Drake's gonna pick it up. I'm sure. Drake's gonna pick that one up. But I mean, I still know what you did last summer, or I know what you did last summer. I would actually really welcome a redux or a reboot of that. I mean, not that there aren't original ideas in horror that I'd like to see done. Of course there are. But also, someone asked him, and this got a more. He was kind of like maybe on that. One thing that got a more favourable response was when someone asked him if Scream became available,
Ooh.
would you want to do that? He was a lot more positive on that one. He was like, yeah.
Yeah, I was paying attention to this too,
Yeah.
and yeah, Scream is interesting to me, but I was more surprised to hear too that he's been working for a while now to try to get Friday the 13th,
Yeah.
which I think in his hands would work. I don't see that lawsuit with Paramount and the writers of Friday the 13th and what all the fakakta crazy mishigash that's going on
Yeah.
with that movie. I don't see it going away soon. That's going to be a tough one because that's worthy of doing, and he would do it right.
Yeah, no, I agree.
He would do that right, and
Yeah.
But Scream to me is a tough one because
I know, because it was kind of like it defined a
don't know.
generation a little bit. Like
Yeah.
it was kind of like that '90s horror movie that felt unique to the time.
But it was Wes Craven. It was satire.
Yeah.
it defined a genre.
It
Yeah.
really did. It really
and
did.
I don't know if you can recapture
And
that.
when they went on, and like when they tried to reinvent it with 4.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to the point that you just raised. What
Okay.
was your point about Scream?
That it would like kind of define the era right there in
Okay.
the '90s.
Who has done that with horror
Other than Jason Blum.
other than
than
Jason Blum
Wes
in the
Craven?
last 10 years, 15, 20 years?
in horror.
Yeah. No, I mean, nobody really,
Nobody.
apart
Nobody.
from Jason Blum.
Oh no, James Wan.
James
Wan.
Wan.
Yeah.
James
So
Wan.
let's take the
Absolutely.
two universes, but obviously I don't think it's going to go to. No, it wouldn't go to Warner. I seriously think that if you want to take something that was so influential and really was a game changer, who better to change that game again than the industry's biggest game changer right now, Jason Blum? If he's got the balls to take on Halloween,
Right.
then
right.
he certainly
Has the
got the
balls
balls
to
to
do
do
Scream.
Scream
Yeah.
and do it really well. I would.
Yeah, I
I
see your
seriously,
point.
I almost peed my pants when he expressed an interest in that.
I mean, I totally see your point, and you're right. All things go towards Jason Blum and Scream, and perhaps he'll give this new life, new breath, and it'll be a story worthy of today's time period.
Yeah.
Halloween to me is a little bit different. Only
yeah,
on
'cause
the
it's
fact-
legacy.
It's legacy, far more legacy.
Yeah.
And I think that they how they've gone about marketing or putting all the info out on Halloween has been fantastic. But I think they're two different properties.
Oh,
And for
yes,
me,
they are.
Scream
Yes.
is going to be harder, not from
you-
a marketing standpoint.
But you talk about legacy. I mean, obviously, it's 40th anniversary of Halloween. It's only been sort of 25 plus years since Scream came out. What did Scream come out?
It was like
96,
96, 97.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're like
96.
2022 kind of
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
So yes, it doesn't quite have the legacy. It also doesn't have the number of films.
Right.
So, and I think,
And it also has that wave in quality.
but it also has a transgenerational in a more, if you separate time over time. I mean, a lot of people are aware of the Halloween movies, but I think if you find a lot of teens today or young adults today, many of them won't have seen. They'll be aware of Halloween. They might not have seen the Halloween movies.
Right, they've probably seen a
will
Ron
probably
Zombie or whatever it's
Yeah,
in.
they've probably seen Scream.
Maybe.
I mean, so I think that
I don't know though, because I think they did
it's
that
a
TV
different
show.
legacy.
They did that TV show for Scream. It only lasted a season or two.
But I also think, I think sometimes when you take something off the big screen, you put it on TV, you there's a slightly different audience. There are many people who would go to the movie theaters or watch a movie, but they wouldn't necessarily watch a TV
And that's
show.
what Jason Blum does so well
Yeah.
is that because he has the marketing in check, he has the cost in check.
Yeah.
I feel like him doing this will work regardless, even if it's not that great of a film,
Yeah.
just because of the fact that he has everything, his expectations in check and his budget in
Well,
check.
also with that though too, and going
That's a
back
key
to
thing,
your point-
budget, guys.
Yeah,
well,
budget.
But I
Seriously.
think story. I think story too, and what you will have to find for if you're doing Scream today. Okay, what is
Those
relevant
actors.
today?
Oh,
well,
yes.
I mean, what is relevant today that we can satirize because violence in cinema isn't necessarily it.
And there are elements that you could include that I think actually
Race, probably.
Well, I mean, Blumhouse did Unfriended, which Unfriended Dark Web and Unfriended didn't really particularly do amazingly. So I think, and that social media thing. So I think if they could kind of find a way to make something like Unfriended and then reskin it as Scream and take it to something
Well, they'd also
a different place that might work, but I think there's so many things.
you have to look at where
I actually have an idea. It wasn't something that I pitched to Scream, but there is a director that I'm talking to at the moment about potentially developing something that I know definitely would work. So I'm just going to say, Jason, if you are serious about doing something with Scream, I actually have a really good idea that we could reskin and turn into a Scream movie. If you want to, we've spoken before. I will be more than happy to speak again. You can just buy the idea.
God bless them.
Seriously, I've got an idea.
And if you don't, we scratch Blumhouse Corner.
No, we're never going to scratch Blum.
I would never do that.
And we won't talk at Sundance every year either. You won't sit behind
seriously,
me. That's it.
No, but
Done.
Seriously.
Done.
What they have to look at is where is the state of horror today?
Yeah.
Because that's what Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson, who I believe,
Yeah.
that's what they did. That's what they satirized. That's what they made fun of.
Yeah.
At the same time, still being scary. So,
well, this is something that a lot of people in the chat are talking about, actually.
Yeah.
This is probably something that we've got the most comments on the show so far
Fantastic.
today. Sky Patterson saying, I Know What You Did Last Summer. It's a good guilty movie pleasure. I don't even consider it to be a guilty movie pleasure.
I don't either.
I mean, I know we obviously disagree on this, which is totally fine. You can disagree on movies all the time. You don't have to be a super troll. I think it was, at the time, it really wasn't considered a guilty pleasure. It was considered a good movie, and I still think it holds up very well. It's Sky again saying a Scream reboot idea. Your Next meets House Party and The Strangers. Give it to Jennifer Kent, James Wan, or Aaron Sorkin. Interesting ideas there for director.
Yeah.
Interesting ideas.
Jennifer Kent is really
Wan, I
underappreciated.
can't see unless it was Warner jumping over because he's so entrenched at Warner.
Sorkin, it would be very interesting to see Sorkin do something so out of his wheelhouse. You know, like I would love to see a horror movie by Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah,
I mean, it would be interesting.
He would have. I wonder how his dialogue would be in a horror movie. Like it would just be so interesting.
Well, think about some of the dialogue in Scream.
Yeah,
I mean,
true,
like
that's
you
true.
know, I mean, again, it was.
well, the box office for Molly's Game was scary.
The box office.
Scarily bad.
Yeah.
Which was a shame. It was a good movie.
Unfortunately, yeah, it was a great movie.
Westy Kid saying, I would love Scream with an older Sidney Prescott. I think you would have to in the same way that Jamie Lee Curtis is back in Halloween. I think you would have to have an element of Sidney Prescott in there.
Agreed.
Sky Patterson, the I Know What You Did Last Summer remake is at Sony Pictures. Universal Blumhouse, go get the rights now. Yeah, I mean, I think those guys could seriously do a really good job. Sky again saying, I love Scream. I grew up in the film series. I like the TV series and MTV. So that's the person who liked it on MTV. Not perfect, but I'm all for a reboot. Popcorn Talk, but I miss villains like Ghostface. Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I think we seriously, in a lot of the horror films that we have today, I think we're lacking some really good villains. John Harrison in the chat, and we're going to move on from this in just a second. Well, I think 2018 was the last year for the whole 80s nostalgia renaissance. Captain Marvel is taking place in the 90s. It's Jesus Christ, Simon.
Information technology.
What is this film about a clown called IT? I've worked with a few clowns in IT, to be honest with you, over the years. It Part 2 was released in 1990. It was set in 1990. X-Men Dark Phoenix with 90s. I mean, I don't think that Scream is necessarily an 80s movie. It's not.
No.
It's definitely not. It's a 90s movie.
Totally.
You know, I Know What You Did Last Summer, 90s movie. I absolutely agree that the whole 80s nostalgia thing might be peaking, but do you know what? I think we've still got 10 years in 80s because I think 80s, it is one of those decades that I think people are really continually going back to still, and I think we're seeing a drop off in the 60s. We're seeing 70s, 80s, and 90s. I think we probably got 10 years before that 80s thing.
They just need to spread them out a little bit more.
We just need to
There's
spread them out, and I think the
them,
quality of them needs to be good. Go, hey, it's in the 80s. It's like, yeah, we don't need that.
I don't necessarily need a movie to be set in the 80s.
No.
But if you make movies like they did
Yeah.
in the 80s,
there we
then
go.
you have something.
Yeah.
Because that was, when you talk about simple, they weren't thinking of that F word franchise. They just wanted to make a good first movie.
Yeah.
And if that movie made a lot of money, then they'd go, okay, we'll do a sequel.
Final thing on this, Wesley Kid saying Scream 4 came out in 2011 and it was brilliant because it was a new story and a new villain behind the mask. I still kind of like Scream 4. I know it took a lot of shit at the time. And Zeno is saying, forget Scream, give me a Blumhouse Friday the 13th reboot. Yeah, I mean, I'd be open to any of those.
I'm down with that too.
Okay, let's move on. We've got a lot to do. We've got 20 minutes left on the show. Okay, I did a piece with Mark Wahlberg this week for Forbes.
Yeah.
It was actually, I've interviewed Mark a number of times over the years. He can be quite a difficult interviewee. He can be a little bit sort of closed off. He was actually very candid in this. Which was great. I put it up on Forbes yesterday, and it's catching a few eyes, which is great. In it, we know that he's done obviously acting for 25 years. 25 years in Hollywood. I mean, that is crazy. His movies globally have taken over I think $6.3 or $6.1 billion. I mean, there have been some stinkers and there have been some gems in there. A lot of the gems haven't made any money. A lot of the stinkers have made a lot of money, and that is unadjusted for inflation. And he's done a lot of producing, and he's moved especially into TV in the last couple of years with things like Entourage, Ballers, etc. Obviously, Wahlburgers. We talk about Wahlburgers as well, which is interesting. And we talk about what he learned from Hollywood and what he's transferred to the food industry and vice versa. One thing we also spoke about was the fact that he is actually putting a lot more skin in the game when it comes to stuff. He's putting a lot of his money out there. He is actively, and this was an exclusive, he is actively looking for projects and developing projects at the moment with a view to directing them in the near future. He's got people looking for projects. Again, Mark, I'm just saying, I've got a couple of ideas. That he's looking to do, and he is seriously. I mean, it's not like, oh yeah, I'd like to direct one day. You get these answers. He's serious about this.
Yeah,
he is really serious about this. What do you think about that?
He's very serious about the industry.
Yeah,
I remember some years ago he did an interview on Howard Stern, and Stern had asked him, well, what's your end game? Like and he says, I want to run a studio, and. He goes, and everything I'm trying to do is leading up to that. Like I'm learning about producing, learning about this. And so directing to me, that seems like a logical step. And I think he is smart enough that he can eventually, he knows how to pick projects for the most part that work. And I think directing is the next evolution for him. It'll be interesting to see if it'll be a movie that he directs, whether or not he stars in the movie as well, or whether he just flat out directs it. It's almost like what Bradley Cooper is trying to do, with A Star Is Born.
And Bradley Cooper, I mean, you don't just have to be a consistent actor and a consistent box office person to get directing. I mean, Bradley Cooper's had some absolute turds when it comes to movie. He's had as many turds. No, I mean, it's like, the cooking movie Toast that he had or whatever it was, or Burn or whatever.
Oh,
Burnt
yeah,
Toast.
yeah. It was Toast
I
at the
would
box
rather have
office.
eaten Burnt Toast. Well, yeah, I mean, so he's had more than his fair share of stinkers, and yet everything I've heard about A Star Is Born is phenomenal.
It's supposed to be.
So you can take someone who is if you work out the mean, is average to good. And then they could turn out to just be a shit-hot director. Mark, I know from people who work with Mark on set, he is a guy that studies the art of filmmaking.
Yes, he does.
He's seriously, he spends a lot of time with the crew. He spends a lot of time behind the camera learning his stuff. He's proven with a lot of the projects that he's produced that he can pick hits, Entourage, Ballers, that are massively popular and very accessible, and yet aren't just bargain basement, simple product to put out there.
And when you think about his career, and again, I'm only going to go so far back, but he has worked with directors who have their own unique visual style and storytelling, right? So, I mean, he's worked with Michael Bay, who has an action style. He's worked with Peter Berg. Well, I mean,
it's action.
You like or hate him.
Yeah.
I mean, but he's worked with Bay. He's worked with Berg, who has style. He's worked with Bruckheimer. He's worked with he isn't directing, but he's worked M. Night, and he's worked with my train just fell off its tracks.
It's okay.
Because
he's very well rounded. Let's put it that way. He's well rounded, and he knows he can take from different technique and put that to use for when he wants to make or pick a project for him to make. So I
think that he could pull it off.
I would love
I'll
to
be
see him
interested
do.
to see.
I would love to see him do something that we wouldn't expect him to do.
Yeah.
So like, my fear is that he's going to try to make a Peter Berg, Michael Bay type movie.
Yeah.
And I would like him to do like a heavy hitting drama.
Yeah, but
or something.
Well, Ridley
something.
Scott. Ridley
Yeah,
Scott was the
yeah.
other person
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
you know, and each of these directors have their own unique visual style.
Yeah.
And I think that he can put it together. And I think his first, knowing how well he knows the business, his first rule, I bet, is going to be he's going to surround himself with some of the most talented people in the industry to keep him.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, and he has been doing that for a number of years. He's a
Absolutely.
very well-connected and actually pretty well-respected person in the
Sure.
industry. People are saying, "Oh, he's probably going to employ Donnie." Yeah, great.
Probably will.
I mean, I like Donnie Wahlberg. I think he's great, and I'd love to see him be given a really good, meaty, ballsy role in a movie that makes it to the big screen. I would like to see
I have
that.
no problem.
Okay, so much to get through, and we have 15 minutes left on the show. Let's talk about the future of Star Trek 4 in doubt, as Chris Pine and Chris Hemsworth depart over salary negotiations. This news broke after the show last week.
Yes, it did.
I mean,
I
what do
tweeted
you
about it.
think about this?
Doesn't surprise me.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
No,
either.
it's because we talked about this last week. Is
Yep.
the budget for the movies is so
Oh,
high?
fuck, was it our fault?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
shit.
The budgets are too high, and
Yeah.
and there's not enough box office. Like
Yeah.
the box office return on these has been mediocre at best.
Yeah,
It's been-
inconsistent.
It's been,
Yeah.
Actually, I think, well, the box office, I think, has been pretty decent.
For the
Here's
first one,
thing.
but they went down and down and down as they went on.
Yeah.
They still worldwide. I still
Yeah,
say they
but
made money. I'm
that's
not
not-
saying. Look, I'm not saying they did Star Wars business, but they did okay, right? Here's my thing.
Yeah.
I tweeted this out, so anybody who supports me on Twitter might have read this.
We all
Well, no,
support
no,
you
no,
on
no.
Twitter.
I know.
But no, it's here's my thing. It's
What
like,
is your
I
Twitter
look at
handle, in case people
it's
miss it?
at D Movies instead
Yeah.
of like B or C. It's D Movies 1701. And here's my thing about this. It's like Chris Pine. I don't know, dude. It's like I like you as an actor. You really haven't carried a movie on your own, like that has been big box office on your own. Jack Ryan didn't set the world afire.
No.
Right?
It did not.
Neither did Finest Hours, which is a really good movie.
Wow, it was a great movie.
Right?
Yeah.
Great movie.
Yeah.
That didn't do, every movie that he's been in.
But that was Disney not caring.
That is, in large part, yes. I know that Hell or High Water, he was fantastic,
Oh,
but that
yeah.
was a little indie
movie.
kind of a movie, right? So the movies that have been successful with Chris Pine in, it's been an ensemble cast. He hasn't been the lead. He hasn't carried it, right? So now here he is. He's in Star Trek. This is for
His
sure an
frontrunner,
amazing
yeah.
franchise.
Okay.
And if you're going to be like dicking around, it's like, dude, okay, do Wonder Woman for the rest of your life.
So very quickly on that point,
yeah.
if he was given the chance to lead it, to not do the ensemble thing and to lead it, could he do it?
On Star Trek or anywhere?
Well, just anything.
I mean, he's a good enough actor, but are people going to give their money to go see him? That's the thing. He hasn't been proven box office.
However, I'm going back to earlier in the show. You can have people that aren't even well known who could open a movie.
It all
Well, not open a
depends
movie
on
because of their name. But,
it depends on the material.
I think
it
exactly.
really does.
Yeah,
It's the
exactly.
writing, it's the directing, it's how strong the film is.
Hell
as
or
a
High
whole.
Water, he was fucking
my
superb.
God, yeah.
Again, it's ensemble, but still, I mean,
Right,
that's the best I've ever seen. in a
Oh
movie.
yeah.
Hands down,
Hands
my
down,
pants.
I agree, and I love him as Captain Kirk. Love him as Captain Kirk.
No,
Yeah.
he's
And I
great in
really
that
think that
movie,
he
too.
can carry it off. I mean, look, Hemsworth, you sort of kind of get, because he's not going to be a main part. I don't think he's going to be a main part in that movie. He was in the first movie for 5 minutes. This is well before Thor.
And Hemsworth doesn't need it because he's got Marvel.
Yeah, he's
You
got
know,
Marvel.
he's got
but Chris
Marvel.
Pine, it's like, dude, just work this could be your last Star Trek movie. You're
Yeah.
walking away from it's sort of a dick move to me.
John Harrison saying Outlaw King, another of Chris Pine's movie,
Oh, yeah,
has
that's
me
him.
hyped. I just want to say it's good to see Chris Pine in the chat.
Yeah.
Today is under the name John Harrison, which is great.
I think is
so
the name.
very very quickly because we still have a lot to get through. Chris Pine, Chris Hemsworth. If this movie does go ahead, who goes, or should it not happen?
Oh, it's hard because like, how are you gonna play that off?
Yeah,
How
I
are you
don't
gonna
know.
play that off? Like you can, like especially with he's such a main. I mean, there was nothing at the end of the last one where you can kind of like pass the buck.
No.
Yeah, so it's very
So
strange.
take it forward 20
Yeah.
years. Take it forward 10 years. Shit happens off screen.
It's gonna.
Seriously.
It would just be hard being that J.J. Abrams spent so
Unless
much
they do
time
bring in Patrick
bringing
Stewart.
this in.
Make it so. Seriously, I tweeted that. I was like, get rid of both of them and take it next generation.
Sure.
Seriously, why not? Bring Picard in. Picard's very big in fashion
Yes.
right now.
Yeah, no
He's
kidding.
very popular right now. No, seriously, do it. I mean, I love.
It's just
I love it.
to me, it's a shame. It really
Yeah.
is a shame that they would,
I agree with
that they
you.
would pull
I mean,
this
yeah.
because each actor, coming from a diehard Star Trek
Yep.
fan, each actor that JJ and casting company chose did such an amazing job. And for him not to return, Chris Hemsworth, I don't
cares?
need him.
Right.
But Chris Pine as Captain Kirk, it would be a shame for him not to return, and they would have a hard time replacing him and saying he's Captain Kirk.
Okay, let's talk about Disney's Lady and the Tramp remake, adding
Yes.
Tessa Thompson and Benedict Wong. I want to move away from Benedict Wong and talk about the controversy around Tessa Thompson. I say controversy. Well, it's not easy to say.
Sabotage.
Sabotage. But there was a lot of talk this week. I mean, I personally think it's great casting. I like Tessa Thompson. My one thing would be, let's not just give everything to Tessa Thompson because we've discovered a new black actress. There are lots of other black actresses out there.
I agree.
If you want to cast something that is specifically for someone, it doesn't even have to be that, to be honest with you. There are more great actresses out there who are not white. So let's not burn Tessa Thompson. That's my concern.
That's
is
my
about-
concern too. Right
I
now,
don't want her to burn.
Right now,
she's got a lot on right now.
It's her, Tiffany Haddish,
Yeah.
and Taji P. Henson.
I could
Those
watch.
are the three-
I could watch all of them all day.
too, me
but I
too.
don't want to just watch all of them.
No, there's so
all
many
day.
more people.
So many more.
And you need to.
And do you know
dig
what?
a little
They
bit.
want to bring these people through too.
Yeah.
So let's look a little bit outside the box when it comes to casting. And this is generally in Hollywood, and this is not just because she's black. This is something that Hollywood
it's
is
really bad, yes.
seriously bad at, and we did it with people like Jack Black
No,
previously.
you know who else
and-
we're doing with? Scarlett Johansson and Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah, and I'm like, let's. And I
yeah.
just, people burn, people get
Yeah.
sick, and it seems like they're like, I know this is a concern for me. I
Yeah.
don't think he's going to have the same problem, but The Rock is like when we have 2 or 3 movies with The Rock in every year at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm just a little bit like, I love The Rock. I could watch him all day, but I don't want to watch him all day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
every day.
I mean, I think
just
we've had the
break up the
we've seen this.
projects. Yeah,
We've
we've
seen
discussed
this
that.
happen now.
And I think I've mentioned it on this show
Yeah.
regarding The Rock. It's like I'm more interested to see the list of movies he says no to.
Yeah.
That's the list I want to see. But going back to Tessa Thompson, I
Yep.
will say this. Regarding Twitter, I probably had the biggest explosion of anything that's ever come out of my thumbs on Twitter.
Wondered where you were
where
going
I
with
said,
that, but sure.
Well, yeah, thumbs. Better than pinky.
Hey, dude, if it works.
So, well, anyways, so back to Tessa Thompson. I just said, hey, I'm all on board with this. I
Yeah.
think she'd be a perfect voice
Yeah.
for Lady because she can
Yes,
sing. I don't
yeah.
know the direction. I don't know if they're going to make it quite the musical that the
Yeah.
animated was, but if they
I hope
do,
so. I hope
me
so.
too, she can do it. Like,
Yeah.
she can do it. And man, the support was like, yeah, it got retweeted, liked, and this, and I was like, wow, I didn't, it was actually it was amazing. I was like, this is, wow, and I didn't realize by being a good Tessa Thompson fan, other people were on board with this. So there seems to be a lot of people.
Do you know who doesn't care that
Who
Tessa
doesn't?
Thompson is not white and is going to be voicing this dog? Blind people. Because these blind people go to the movies too. They don't give a fuck what the color of the person on the screen is because they literally cannot see it.
Right.
Why do we have to be obsessed with this thing? It's like,
I didn't
well,
even think it was an issue.
Oh,
No, I
it's
don't.
No, it's
But
a
also,
huge.
do you
It's
know
a
what?
huge issue in our industry.
It
I don't
is,
know
but it
why
shouldn't be.
everything
I-
comes down the race anymore. It's like we're putting people in the boxes all
Well,
the freaking time.
yeah.
It
But
drives
it's
me
treated
nuts.
like radio. It's like, hang on.
Yeah.
Hang on. Who's reading the news? What color are they? It's black news. No,
Yeah.
Well,
it doesn't matter.
no,
It's
it
a
doesn't.
voice role. Do you know what? Josh Gad isn't a snowman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he was.
Oh my god! Do plot
But he's
twist.
white,
It's
and the snowman's white.
Yeah, I think
the
it's-
majority of
some-
dogs, if you shave a dog, they're pretty much the same color underneath.
Yeah, well-
there's not really a race.
Look, I apologize.
I don't understand it.
Well, I apologize to the panel here. I apologize to the audience, but it need be said. It's because of our regime today.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm
It's
sorry.
a factor.
It
It's
really
a factor.
is, and it's emboldened people who have those horrible proclivities to come out on social media. I'm sorry. It's
Yes,
just
I
that's
know,
the way
I
that
know,
it is.
I know,
I
I
apologize,
know.
audience.
No,
I
I
don't
know,
mean to
I
be.
know.
And we need, obviously, that is a factor. However,
Yes.
do you know what? We still have those people anyway.
True.
Whoever is in power. There are people who have certain opinions, which they are entitled to hold. It's a free country. However, we do have
True.
those people. It's an influence. It's not the be-all. We're running out of time. We've got 2 minutes. Okay, very, very quickly, a couple of things I want to touch on, and then we're going to do very, very quick wrap-ups. Neill Blomkamp. Hello, Neill. He says Peter Weller should play Robocop in his sequel, a movie we didn't touch on the other week. I say yeah.
Yeah, sure.
He's available, and I love him, and
Wait,
he's
I'm
better.
looking for my bag of fucks.
No, seriously.
I know.
After that most terrible Robocop reboot a couple of times, I want another go around. And James
Peter
Gunn.
Weller, I think we.
James Gunn, we talked about on the show. Decision this week that he won't be hired back to direct Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Not a surprise.
Not a surprise. Disappointed. Not a surprise. But obviously, as we've mentioned that on the show previously, I did say we'd go back to it if there was any news.
Can we bring? I just want to sort of
Very
bring this
quickly.
up against quickly. Do you think at any capacity he will be a quote unquote consultant?
Potentially.
He's going to have some credit,
you-
maybe executive producer, some like little role. It's
He
gonna be in
will
there
get a
somewhere.
mention in the credits. A lot of people consult on movies. I mean, you know, in Hollywood all the time, and they don't get a mention. It's behind the scenes. There's some advice stuff. Yeah, I fully expect that he will, at some way, or shape or form, have a finger in the Guardians pie. Okay, that's the end of the show. We have run out of time.
We have.
First of all, starting with you. Who are you?
Demetri at DMovies1701 here. You know, it's such a pleasure to be here on Meet the Movie Press. I said the best show about movies and the business of show. Seriously, guys. So you'll find me here in at DMovies1701. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to just plug the shows. So this wonderful show, every Friday, 9 o'clock. You're watching it right now. Tune in, 9 a.m. Black Tomatoes on Black Hollywood Live, 5 p.m. on Sundays. And then at 11 o'clock today, watch the LAOFCS weekly show where critics from my organization or the organization talk about the family.
The family.
We talk about movies a lot because we love them. And guess what? We have diversity too there.
My name, liberals.
We have diversity here too. He's from England.
My name is Simon Thompson. God, it's like having kids.
This is like the boys' club. I love it, but I love it though. It's kind of fun.
Okay, that's the problem. That's Hollywood Boys
Yeah,
Club.
yeah,
Okay,
no,
my
I
name.
know.
Shush. It's my big finish.
the white boys'
finish.
club too. On top of
Mine.
it.
Oh my God,
He's
jeez.
coming in for a finish. Sorry.
My name is Simon Thompson. I was once in control of this table. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at ShowbizSimon. You can see my work everywhere from Reuters, Forbes, E! News, AP, AFP, blah, blah, blah. I'm all over the place.
IGN.
IGN. God, yeah, I was on Euronews. I'm kind of everywhere. Like gonorrhea. If you like the show, Meet the Movie
diarrhea.
Press, do tell your friends, comment below the video. We really appreciate it. Great to have a dialogue with you. If you like the show, do tell people on social media. We love the family we have. We want to make it bigger. And the only people that can do that is you. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend of the movies, and we will be back next week.
Bye all.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of its owners or principals.